Coming up in Current.
We were at the protest where students demonstrated against armed companies on campus.
We report on the theft at Wessex Lane.
We bring you another new edition of Weird News.
And even more.
Welcome to Current. I'm David Galani.
And I'm Justine Tats. Today's top story. A demonstration took place on campus last Wednesday outside a careers fair where 11 armed companies were present.
The demonstration was planned jointly by Socialist Students, Green Action and Amnesty International. Jessica Fuel has more.
This is the protest that was organised by students angry that the university and its careers department allowed arms companies to visit Southampton to recruit future employees from the university. Aaron Barley is the Environment and Ethics Coordinator at SUSU.
Okay, so what did you do when people found out about BAE and other arms companies being at the fair?
Well, I looked through the Union Council policy records and there was already a policy that we had against the arms trade. So I met up with Charlotte Woods, VP Media and Communications, and we wrote a letter to the university registering our kind of disapproval with the fact that we're having these companies down.
Okay, and what did the letter say?
It basically said that we recognise kind of the dangers of these companies, you know, the kind of things that they've been involved with over the past few years, and that we think that there are plenty of other alternatives for engineering and science students in terms of employment, and that the arms trade companies don't necessarily need to be there.
Okay, and what did the university do in response?
They basically said that they were going to continue to have the arms trade companies down because you know, they considered them a valuable source of recruitment for engineering and science students, but they kind of accepted our stance and understand why we were doing it.
Politics editor of the Wessex Scene and one of the organisers of the protest was asked to leave the fair after approaching students speaking to arms companies at the fair. We asked him why they were targeting BAE.
It's not just BAE, there's actually 11 arms companies at the fair. We're specifically focusing on BAE because they've got a real record of selling arms to companies, to countries major areas of conflict or human rights abuses. We're protesting about the presence of the companies on campus because we think it's something that the university shouldn't encourage. But our main aim really is to let people know who are going in and thinking about working for an arms company the reality of what these companies do.
Okay, so are you going into the fair and speaking to potential employers of these companies, or?
Yeah, that's why I'm wearing a suit. I'm going in and standing next to the tables and telling them, you know, the reality about arms companies as compared to the glossy prospectus that BAE Systems and Lockheed are handing out.
What do you think about the university hosting the fair and having these companies here today?
I mean, I think it's pretty typical of the university's stance. They have a major strategic partnership with BAE. They conduct a lot of research for BAE and various other arms companies. They've got no moral concerns about it whatsoever, but I think us and a lot of other students think that's wrong.
Protesters at the fair remained angry with the company's presence. However, it ran smoothly without any violence.
Basically, I'm against people making money off the suffering of other people and the instability in other people's countries.
How bad is it that BAE are here today?
It's terrible that the university keep bringing them back here just because they promote so much suffering and abuse of human rights all around the world.
My message to the student is like, don't work for these companies. Instead of working for them, there are some nice companies, you can work for them.
So why are you here today?
We're just making sure that everybody is behaving themselves. Everyone's got a right to opinions. You know, it's not a problem people protesting, but we just want to make sure that that's all they do.
In the meantime, BAE and other arms companies will continue to recruit at careers fairs at our university. This is Jessica Fuel for Current News.
In other news, this week, SUSU's Union Council voted that the university should hold a referendum about joining the NUS. The referendum would allow all students from Southampton University to vote on whether or not we should join the NUS. However, there was much debate about whether the motion should go through at all.
Some union members argued there is no student interest in having a referendum, and that is a waste of resources. However, Student Union President Billy Fitzjohn, who called the motion, said that he'd promised a referendum in his manifesto, a promise that he wanted to keep.
Worried that the result would be unrepresentative of student opinion, an amendment was suggested that 25% of the student population would have to vote for the decision to pass. However, this was rejected by the council. Billy was later quoted saying, "We want 100% of students to vote, but we have to be realistic."
One amendment was passed, stating that an independent committee must produce an information booklet, telling students everything they need to know on the issue. So you'll have a chance to learn the facts and make your decision before the referendum comes at the end of November.
Next up, last week a Connaught resident had a £700 laptop and iPod Touch stolen from her room. Emma is at Connaught Halls to tell us more.
Although the windows and curtains were closed, the thieves were able to work them open and then drag their £700 laptop and iPod Touch towards them using the Ethernet cable. The police had hoped that the anti-suicide windows would prevent incidents like these, but student accommodation remains a vulnerable target due to the amount of gadgets in the average student's room.
I feel really safe in Connaught. I think with the security always seen about, I think it's a pretty good place to be.
Lock my door and don't have the window fully open when I leave the room.
I think my belongings are safe. I always keep my windows and doors locked most of the time, but I see that a lot of other people don't.
I don't really lock my door too much, so clearly not.
I'd say I pretty much trust most of my block. I do worry when I go out because it doesn't seem that secure.
The police found fingerprints of the suspected robbers and are keeping an eye on the stock taken by local second-hand shops. Students are advised to keep their valuables hidden and keep their rooms locked and to get insurance. This is Emma Whiting reporting for Current.
Last Monday afternoon, bikes at a stand at Gately Hall on Archers Road were stolen. One of the victims confirmed his bike was locked on the stands at the halls of residence. However, it was not secured with a D-lock, which would have been resistant to the bolt cutter used by the thieves.
Current spoke to one of the victims, who said that the lock had been recovered by police and has been kept for forensic evidence. Police are also using CCTV footage to identify the thieves.
Police and university security recommend using a D-lock and the Unilink ID card to activate locked storage areas on campus and in halls to keep your bike safe.
And now, over to Ollie Narbit for coverage of the university sports.
Hi, today we're down at Wide Lane covering mixed lacrosse, Battle of the Hamptons, Northampton versus Southampton, and we'll also be looking at intramural rugby. The mixed lacrosse team looked to build on their win at Hertfordshire last week. However, it wasn't to be, and despite scoring a couple of great goals, they were unable to overcome a strong Northampton side. The pre-season intramural rugby tournament showcased a good standard of play, with a large number of fresher students integrating into the teams well. The Glen Lost boys arguably had the best afternoon, finishing the day unbeaten. The annual mixed hockey fixture between the uni team and the Medics saw Wessex get revenge for last year's 3-2 loss with a 2-0 victory.
Now we are joined by Chris Horton, online manager of the Wessex scene. So Chris, what can we expect from the next issue?
Well, this Wessex scene, the entire theme is around the new higher education plans. We've got things like the Brown Review, which recently been announced. We've got spending cuts to higher education. So the entire issue is themed around working out what is affecting students, current students, and students who will be applying to university in the future.
Okay, excellent. And you've also got some interviews with sixth form students as well.
Yes, we do. We interviewed a number of sixth form students in local Southampton area. To sort of find out what they thought about the issue, what they thought about paying, larger amount of fees. We don't know what the fees will be yet, but what they feel about this kind of thing, and whether that's going to change their choice of going to university or not.
I see. And there's also discussion and a comparison with American universities.
Yes, we know that the government's very keen to not turn this country into the American higher education system. There are some colleges which are charging the equivalent of up to £32,000 a year, and the government really doesn't want that, and that would not be in the interest of students. So what we're doing is we're comparing sort of how the American system works, how our system works, and how are we moving closer towards that? Are we staying well away from that? Examining the issues to work out exactly what's going on there.
Okay, so that's the education special. What about the sports section?
Yeah, the sports section, we had an interview with some Southampton FC fans. This was to do with the recent almost liquidation of Portsmouth Football Club. And they weren't liquidated, but it was a very near miss situation. So these fans were sort of talking about what they thought about the issue and sort of discussing more about how a club being liquidated can affect fans.
Okay, and also there's a website as well. What's the main story at the moment?
The top story on the Wessex Scene website is the NUS referendum. As you said earlier in the show, the NUS referendum will be happening next month, I think. So there's a lot of debate going on there. Some people strongly disagree with it, some people do agree with it.
And people are welcome to leave their comments
Yes.
Stating their
On any
views.
article, people can leave their comments on the West 16 articles online, which you can do at west16.co.uk.
Fantastic. Now let's go over to Sophie for weird news.
It's been a great weird week for food this week, starting with the invention of deep-fried beer. Unveiled at the Texas State Fair, the snack combines a salty pretzel with a pint of Guinness. The Texas State Fair is quite famous for unveiling new foods, such as last year's deep-fried butter. Over in Mexico, the world's biggest enchilada has been made, measuring an impressive 230 feet and weighing 1.5 tons. Continuing the theme of big food, and because it is Halloween after all, a Wisconsin farmer has grown an 821 kilogram pumpkin, making it the world's biggest. Apparently, the secret to big pumpkins is a mixture of sun, rain, cow manure, seaweed and fish emulsion.
That's all from Current. Next time we'll bring you all the news on the JCR elections.
You can check out www.susu.org/JCR elections for more.
We'll see you next time.
Keep it current.